Okay, in this video, I'm starting off with a French curve. I'm adding a few arcs to the pattern there that goes all the way around and that top ring. That'll just be kind of like, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, that's when it was finished with the carving. I'm just carving away some of the area or recessing that area, showing the clay surface. There's a little bit of an arc there that I put on with that French curve. I just follow that pattern around. So that kind of just starts off, it's kind of like a banded top. On the right side, I'm using my grip and grip just to clean up the footing or the base of this pot before I finish with the carving on the surface. I usually let my pieces sit on the bat. They finally shrink and pop loose. I like a nice smooth bottom on them. I usually don't cut them off with a wire. I don't make 150 pieces a week or anything. So I'm able to do that. I have mini barrels and I store the pieces in there and they slowly shrink and pop loose from the bats. And then I just clean up the base. Again, if I was a production potter, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't have that many barrels to accommodate that. But anyway, here I'm using my handmade music wire tool and I'm following the pattern that I put onto the clay surface. And I'm putting some small lines, relief cutting in the stained surface area. So here I'm using the music wire tool again. This is one of the tools that I made using an old paintbrush. I put the music wire in there, whatever loop size or shape that I want. So I've completed the outline or the profile of one of the patterns here. Now I'm going to do some relieving of the surface area all the way around that. Here's a little tool that I started using a while back. They're small, but they work really well for kind of tight little patterns. And they have a nice little cutting edge on them to get in there, just like I'm doing right there in that little area. It's a tight area. I don't have the larger Kemper tools that are a little bit too big for that area, but these kind of fit in there real nice. So I'm kind of messing with that tool there. That's the first time I've really used them. They're not very expensive and they're really nice. Now this tool here is a handmade tool with a music wire, but it's got a flat end or a square end on the end. And I'm just sort of taking off some of these surface areas that are kind of complicated around others, so I don't cut into the image that I outlined on there. Here I'm just brushing off some of the particles. It looks like I've pretty much finished the carving on this side of the pot. There's going to be two of these images, and the gecko, there'll be one on both sides, but they'll be kind of like a mirror image of one another. On the right side, you can see the part as it rotates, and you can see the two images on the right side. So here I'm starting to do the profile relief cut for the image on the other side of the bowl. And I'm using my original handmade music wire loop tool again. So I'm just going to follow this pattern here. This one's got a nice long loop on it. I like the flexibility of it. It's not a short loop, but it just has enough spring to it that I can put the pressure on there as I need, and then the groove only goes so deep. So it's kind of for me. I'm used to using it, and it makes it easy not to go too deep or with the cut. I can just take the stain off the surface. So here I'm just finishing up part of the loop for the tail, and that's pretty much it with the profile of the gecko. So here I'm using a much larger tools now just to remove some of the surface area. And then I'll go back in there with a smaller tool and clean up some of the little detail corners and places like that. That little tool works really nice for little corners like that. This clay is leather hard, and I had to spray it a few times just to keep it moist. There's just the right moisture level to carve at, which makes it gives you a smooth surface, and it takes the clay off so much smoother when you have the right moisture level. So I have to use a fine mist spray, and I'll moisten this down again. This is being thrown on my Lockerbie kick wheel. It was thrown on my Pacifica electric wheel, but it's actually carved while it's on my Lockerbie kick wheel. So here I'm adding one of my standard handmade tools to put a few light lines down there. That'll be relief cut with some of the other tools. This pattern, there's four of those different types of patterns go all the way around the bowl. So here I'm just using on that little loop tool again with the rectangular, or I mean the triangular edge. So I'm just going to clean up some of those surface areas there. And it came in a package, about six of them. Some of them have loops, some of them have full circles. Some of them are a little different angle. So I'll be trying them. They probably all work out really well. For the money they cost, they're pretty nice. Just cleaning up that surface right there. On the right side, you can see the piece when it's pretty much done. And you can see that it's on my Lockerbie kick wheel. And you can tell about what size it is. Here I'm just adding a little powder. After this is done, though, it's going to be, it'll be leather hard as it is now. It'll dry out. And then a few days later, I'll put it into my scud kiln and I'll fire it to a little over cone 5. Okay, there is now a finished carved piece. It's slowly rotating there. I'm looking at it myself. I went back in and changed a few little corner designs and sharpened them up and made them a little smaller, made it look a little more balanced, but I'm happy with it. Anyway, I'm looking forward to this drying out and being fired in the scud kiln. I like to, just like everybody else, it's always nice to open it up and take a look and see what you have after it's fired.